Let's be honest, most of you guys listening are busy. We've got work, kids, errands, travel, life pulling you in 100 different directions. And when it comes to your health, it may feel like that's always the first thing to go. So I want to start this off by saying something clear. You don't need more time, you need the right moves. Because there are certain habits that can give you way more return than others, that don't take hours, that don't require you to overhaul your entire life. And when you focus on these, everything else in your life starts to shift around that. So, in this episode, we're breaking down the most bang for your buck habits, activities, the ones that people like you that are busy can start using today with minimal time, money, or energy and still see that real progress.
All right. So, anything exciting happening in your world, Mackenzie?
Honestly, not really. I was trying to think of what to talk about or what to update you on, but not a whole lot. I got my creamy back and running, so that's exciting. And actually, I know
What?
I mentioned that it caught on fire the other week. And one of our clients literally texted me this morning and said he heard this podcast and his caught on fire as well. Like right after he bought it.
So we have some creamy issues here.
Yeah. So he said he luckily he got it at Costco, so he has a new one already. So again, if you get one, I think it's worth it. Just get the warranty because they cannot be trusted.
That's funny because I always hear good things. Like anytime I hear someone post about it, they're like, "I love my creamy. It's so awesome." So it's interesting to hear that half of them catch on fire.
Yeah, and I love it so much that I keep buying them even when they do. So
That's the struggle, right? You love something so much, you're like, you know what? It could catch on fire again, but I'll get another one because I love the results.
yeah, sad but true. Yeah, other
I
than
was
that, just been lots of volleyball, doing lots of contrast, ice bath, and I really am addicted to that too. I feel like that's the best. Like, I feel like no better high than you can get than doing an ice bath. It's just unreal.
Well, so speaking of real world problems, right, with your creamy and
Yes.
ice bathing or ice baths, whatever you want to call it. So I woke up this morning and apparently, because everyone in the house and everyone in the city knew that there was like a huge tornado warning, and except my buddy Dax and I, my dog, we slept through the entire thing, had no clue. And everyone's like hiding out in the closets and basements of their houses, and we're just sleeping, we're snoozing through it. So I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but I had no power this morning, and so I could not make a shake, which is a big deal because I like my shakes in the morning. So I had to. Luckily, the fridge was still cold, so I had some leftover ground beef. It was fantastic, but I do miss my shakes. So I'm super looking forward to that tomorrow now, my shake. And then I totally forgot that I guess I have, I sound like an idiot in my own house. I guess I have a gas water heater because I was thinking, man, I'm going to have to take this shower like ice cold water, right? And I had to shave and stuff. And so I was shaving in the sink because I didn't want to spend all the time in the shower. And I get in there and wash my face real quick with super ice cold water. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be brutal. And the hot water starts turning on. I'm like, all right, here we go. Like I'm pleasantly surprised by this. So I enjoyed the shower way more than I normally do because I got some hot water and I was expecting it to be ice cold, which I do not love.
There we go. We'll take that. So, did the tornado not hit like all good then?
Yeah, no, we got some really strong winds. We didn't have any actual tornadoes, I don't think. I feel like we've had a couple, um, I guess, warnings last few months. Uh, it seems like not very typical. I'm not sure why we're getting more. We actually had one. I can't remember if it was last year. I guess it was last year. One hit close by, but everyone gets mad at me because I'm like, oh yeah, tornado warning, whatever. I'm like, I'm just going to go to sleep and stuff. Like this is serious stuff. But
So
anyway,
asleep. We need that beauty rest.
I know, right? I mean, I felt great waking up, you know. So,
Not a
but
care in the world. I love it.
yeah, Dax and I woke up. We're like, all right, why is the power off? That's it.
What's going on here? That's weird.
What's going on? It's so weird. And then the other thing I wanted, and this is totally not related at all, but I heard this story. Never heard it before. It's a story, and it's kind of relating to what we're going to be talking about here in a minute. But it's called "The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse." I don't know. Have you heard that story before?
Nope.
Yeah, I had never heard about it before. Maybe if some of our listeners like, oh yeah, I've heard it before. But anyway, so I was hearing it kind of described, and there's a really cool moment in the story where I guess the boy's with the horse, and I guess they're like at the edge of the forest or they're in the forest, and he's feeling like totally lost. And he can't, he just, the forest is really thick, and he's like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I need to be doing next. And the horse, so he kind of asks the horse, he's like, I don't know what to do. And the horse just calmly looks at him, and he says, well, just take the next step. He's like, well, what do you mean? He goes, can you see right in front of you? And he's like, well, yeah. He goes, just take the next step.
Mm.
And he said, then we'll worry about the next step. If you can see that one, we'll take that next step. And I thought it was just a really powerful reminder that we don't have to have it all figured out. And sometimes all we can do is just take that one little step and just focus on just what's right in front of us, take care of that, and that's enough. And that's all we need. And then you know what? Once we do that, then we'll worry about that next step.
Yeah, I love that so much. Such a good reminder. I even talk about that in my speech too. Yeah, no one has it all figured out. I feel like we're all just going one step at a time. At least that's how I feel with literally everything. Like I have no clue what I'm doing, just taking one step at a time, figuring it out as I go and building on that. But I also don't think you should have it all figured out because only once you take that first step does the next one become clear and you understand like what the next natural progression is from wherever you're going. So yeah, always a good reminder. You don't have to all figured out. Just start. Just baby steps. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today too, is starting with super small actionable items that are going to make the most impact in your life.
Yeah, I almost feel like if we think that we have it all figured out, then there's just something that's about to hit us. And so I think it's always good, even if we feel very confident about what's going on, everything seems to be clicking, just to be aware and to be ready for those times where you're going to have to just look at that next step and just feel like I'm just going to take this next step.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you ready? Let's get started. Okay. So the real problem, you mentioned that earlier, usually isn't time, right? It's kind of like, what are you prioritizing with your time, right? And I hear that a lot. I don't have enough time in the day. I wish I had more time in the day. But usually that's not really the problem here. So we're just filling our day with kind of that reactive energy, scrolling or just multitasking random things or just rushing through, one thing to the next. And the stuff that would actually help us feel better gets kind of pushed to that bottom of the list. So I think it's always good to kind of reframe things. And it's not about finding the hours, it's about choosing those 5 to 15 minutes a day or however long it might take you and making them count, right? So, for example, we don't need a 90-minute workout. We don't need a perfect meal prep routine. We don't need that morning ritual that every other post is about, right? We need simple things that really fit into your life. And so we're going to kind of break down like our 5 like highest, like you said, bang for a buck habits or activities. And if you do those things, you're going to see results. So I think I was thinking about like what's the criteria here for things that are going to be highest bang for your buck. And then one, it's got to be something that you can easily do. There can't be tons of barriers in the way. Does it have a big payoff for the actual work involved? And then is it realistically sustainable forever? And then before we get started, because I think this is super important and it's one of those things that we just often forget about or it gets overlooked, but it's so important. Bonus tip, drink plenty of water. This is going to come out in the summer, especially year round, of course, but especially in the summer. And we're not talking about just enough to survive. Let's talk about being optimal here. So drink like a half a gallon to a gallon of water a day. So that's ish. It's like 60 to 120 ounces. And for someone that might be like, wow, that's a lot more than I'm drinking. Then be aware of where you're starting and like double that. For example, if you're only drinking like 20 ounces a day, go for 40. Try to do that for a couple weeks, then go for 60. It's kind of like a lot of things we talk about. You don't have to blow it out of the water right away, but you do need to improve and increase on that. And then I think it's really important too to be very intentional about how you make this plan for drinking your water. For example, this has been my goal often because I don't drink a whole lot of water. I have to really think about it, drink water. And so one day I decided, okay, you know what I'm going to do is when I wake up, before I'm done with my in my bathroom morning routine, shave, shower, all that fun stuff, I want to drink 20 ounces of water. So I have a cup that is 20 ounces, filled that up the night before, it sits in my bathroom. I go in there, do my little morning routine, and I make sure I drink all that water. and then I go downstairs and I go throughout my day. So at least I've started off with that 20 ounces.
I was just gonna say, I think this is so important. Me and my friends have been experiencing this firsthand now that like it's pretty damn hot in Florida right now, and we're out playing volleyball. We're idiots and play like in the middle of the day, just peak heat and everything. But people have really been struggling. Like some of my friends, like he thought I was gonna pass out the other day, and like yesterday when we were playing, everyone was just dragging because we are sweating so much and so dehydrated and so hot out. And literally, I like we were just passing out electrolytes to everyone. As soon as they drink, they're like, "Oh, I feel so much better." So I think I would add on to that electrolytes too, especially if you live in somewhere hot. If you're sweating a lot, hydrate. Water's so underrated and makes so much of a difference.
Yeah, and to your point, it's probably important to have it before and during, not wait until you feel like you're about to pass out, right?
For sure. That's really the only difference too. Like, because we're usually pretty down. We're usually on top of that. And I think for all my friends that were struggling, it's just because they neglected the water and the hydration that day, and then it caught up to them when we were playing. So it's just, I feel like it really highlights that point that you're driving home here.
Even if you're not out there in the hot sun, if you're indoors, you're working all day, still, you need to drink plenty of water. You're going to feel better, better digestion, reduced inflammation. And then kind of like a double bonus tip there is if you're drinking a lot of water, you're probably not drinking other calories.
Yeah, this is something I also tend to struggle with too. I also don't need a ton of water in general. That's just how my body is, but I definitely could drink more than I do. And so that's one target that I've made for myself. I literally will set a target for it. What step one is, like you said, just start tracking, get a baseline for how much you're actually drinking now. So that way you know what you need to improve on. And so that's what I did. I basically just track it through my water bottles. I keep this thing on me at all times, and I'm just counting like how many of those do I want to drink throughout the day, and then I'm kind of spacing it out, like you said. It's like when I get done with the gym, I want to have two of those water bottles drinking, and then just like I'm spacing it out throughout the day and being very intentional about tracking that, and it has helped a ton.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, being intentional and having some kind of plan. Whether, I've heard people before just fill up a gallon jug of water and they just somehow throughout the day they need to finish that jug or a half gallon or something like that, just so they know exactly how much they're taking in. And it takes out the guesswork of like, I think I drank a lot of water. I don't know, did I?
Hmm. Yeah, drink your water.
All right, so let's get started with our top five. So, number one, I love it because it is absolutely free. Anyone can do it at any time, and it is just a fantastic activity. Walking and just daily movement in general. So, walking, it will improve insulin sensitivity, blood sugar regulation, fat loss, digestion, especially, which we highly encourage when done after meals. 5 to 10 minute walk after meals would make such a big difference in most people's lives, even if they did nothing else. It's also a proven way to reduce cortisol, stress, and regulate your nervous system. And it's just so underrated for mental and physical health.
Yeah, it's the best. Actually, it's funny that you say the 5-10 minutes after eating for digestion. That's in the challenge that we're running in the community this week. That's today's or tomorrow's task is just 5 minute walk after each meal because it
Oh,
makes
that's
that big of a
perfect.
difference.
I can't wait to see the results on that. That's perfect. That's so underrated and so beneficial.
Hmm.
And I think it's great as a habit stacker as well.
Yeah.
People are wanting to get out and walk more, and they're like, well, I don't know when to do it or when the best time is. You got to eat, and everybody's going to eat, right? And especially if you have a job where you're sitting around a lot, that's a great opportunity to say, oh, I just had lunch. Let me go walk for 5 or 10 minutes. All right. So what kind of things can you have or do to make the walking a little bit easier? Because maybe you're all into the 5-10 minute walk and you open up the door and it's pouring down rain or it's freezing cold. So one of the things we've talked about in here a bunch because we absolutely love is the walking pad, right? You can have that in any room that you want. It's super easy. It's fantastic to have. You can get tons of steps in no matter what's going on in life.
And I kind of want us to be doing that during our podcast. I love when we hop on our weekly team meetings and we're just bobbing, we're walking.
I know we talked about that. We need to do it on a podcast one time. Maybe we'll do one just all on walking, and we'll be bopping on the walking pad.
All right.
And then obviously you want to be comfortable, so you want to make sure that you have shoes that are comfortable for walking, and that's very important. Phone reminders. I think you use phone reminders a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I try to for like business stuff, and then also, yeah, like for wind downs, like typically in the evening after clock out for the day, I'll set an alarm and I'll go for a quick walk to kind of separate my workflow to like evening wind down and get my head like out of all the like the stress and chaos.
And I know, and I don't have an Apple Watch or anything, but I think on a lot of those devices, something will pop up like if you haven't been active, it'll say, "Hey, you need to be active or stand up." Those would be great reminders too to walk around the house for 5 minutes or go outside, walk down the block type of thing too. So I think that's great reminders as well.
Yeah, definitely. I also like doing it, stacking it with doing some work. Although, unfortunately, it's too hot now in Florida that my phone will overheat if I try to go out and do work. So I'm using the walking pad for that. But take calls, do any like sort of work that you need to do on your phone, answering emails, just go for a walk, get it done, multitask.
Yeah, the multitasking, it seems like it wouldn't work well, but I do a lot of work while I'm walking on the walking pad, and whether it's taking phone calls or doing videos or just doing creating programs, whatever it may be, it's easy to do on the walking pad. So you get a lot of work done, and before you know it, you've walked 2,000 steps.
Adds up super quick. And I feel like it works both ways. I feel like you can be very productive on walks and do work, or you can just use it as a moving meditation. Just let your mind be still, like do some sort of prayer, just let yourself unwind, kind of like I do in the evening. So I feel like it definitely works really well both ways, at least for me, as far as being super productive or using it as a way to chill and relax and unwind.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that point out because there might be some people like, I like walks just to kind of get away with everything and enjoy nature, and they're fantastic for that. A couple of years ago, summer, it was like cool summer mornings, and I would get up and I would just take my dogs every morning for a walk, and it was so peaceful out there, so quiet, and you'd hear birds chirping and bunny rabbits were running around, and that was about it. There were no cars driving around, no one was out walking, and it was super peaceful.
Yeah, I feel like those morning walks hit different. I've been trying to go to the beach for sunrise too and just go for a quick little walk and just pray and chill. And impossible to have a bad day after that, I swear.
Yes, I agree. So, kind of going back to that story that I mentioned earlier, most days all we really need is just to take that next step. We don't have to see the whole path or just everything figured out. We just keep moving one step at a time, and that's I feel like that's kind of like what walking teaches us. Brings us back to the present, reminds us to move forward slowly, steadily, and with purpose, not rushed, not pressured, just good old movement.
Love it. All right, number two habit that we have is strength training. Lifting is the most effective form of exercise because it builds muscle, which in turn boosts your metabolism, reshapes your body, makes fat loss easier, more sustainable. Unlike cardio, it changes your baseline. So, not just what you burn during the workout, but it's also going to improve mental health, reduce stress, strengthen your bones, your joints, protects against age related muscle loss. And you don't need a whole lot of work. You don't need to do a bunch of cardio sessions. You don't need to spend hours and hours in the gym. You really just need 2 to 3 sessions a week to see major results from that.
Yeah, if you work out an hour total a week, however you want to divide that up, you can get tons of results from that.
Yeah, I would say like lifting is for everyone. Everyone needs to be doing it in some capacity just for the health longevity, even if you aren't trying to get jacked or shredded or whatever it is. It's the number one way to set yourself up for success in the long run. And then, in particular, when it comes to getting more bang for your buck in your workouts, of course, if you have very minimal time and you're busy, we want to make sure that what you're doing in the gym is as efficient and effective as possible. So, in particular, we really want to prioritize those compound lifts. And so, those are the ones that are recruiting multiple muscle groups at once, creating a larger hormonal and metabolic response, boosting muscle growth, the calorie burn, and strength more efficiently than just the plain isolated movements.
Yeah. Do you think that out of all, I think all these are super important and some might be a little bit easier to do than others. Like, well, I mentioned walking is just so easy and anyone can do it. But do you think just all things said, do you think lifting resistance training is maybe get the most bang for your buck in terms of the results you can receive?
That's a good question. Honestly, probably. Because I feel like it impacts so, like, every other area of your life falls into place too when you do that. Not even just like the physical shifts and the muscle and the longevity and all that. So I feel like it's definitely up there. What do you think?
Yeah, while you're going over that and talking about that, I was like, yeah, this might be like the biggest bang for a buck. Like, if you just did this, you might get the most results with the least amount of time spent. It's so powerful. Like you said, everyone really should be doing some form of resistance training.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily need to have access to a gym. You don't necessarily need to do anything crazy. Like I said, just pick a few of these main movements, couple times a week, whatever time you have, go in, get it done. Try to push, progress each week, and you'll see the benefits. A few things that might help with that too is One, either just use body weight or get some adjustable dumbbells, a bench, some resistance bands. Like if you are on a budget or constantly traveling, resistance bands are going to be super cheap, cost effective, and give you a lot of variability on what you can do and be able to load things a little bit more than just plain body weight. Also, having some sort of set program, workout app, whatever to track and follow. And we want to make sure that we actually have an effective strength training program so that way you're getting the most out of it, because a lot of people can go into the gym for years and years and not see results when they're just going in and doing random things and have no proper progression. So the proper programming is very important in that. And of course, that's what we do with clients. That's what we build out for them. But you want to make sure that you have a set plan. And if you're looking for a program, we have plenty of free ones in the school community that I can link as well.
Yeah, and again, the key is being consistent with it and having fun with it too.
Yeah, exactly. And when you're thinking about building out proper programming or approaching your training, we want to basically base our workouts on those main compound movements like we were talking about. So that's some of the squat movements, the hinge, presses, rows, anywhere from 2 to 4 times a week, 30 to 45-minute sessions. Again, if you need to do a little less, totally fine as well. But that's going to be a good general baseline for you to start at to start seeing those amazing results. And just continue to prioritize that progression over perfection, going in every week, just trying to get 1% better, trying to beat what you did the last week, but really pushing to make sure that you're maintaining that proper form, control, range of motion, getting the most out of every single rep.
All right, number three, prioritizing protein. So why does protein matter so much? We've talked about this a bunch, but I still think there might be some people out there like, I'm not quite sold yet. So protein is going to trigger that muscle protein synthesis, which increases satiety, improves the blood sugar control. It has the highest thermic effect of food, meaning that it's going to burn more calories just during digestion than carbs or fat. And it's obviously going to help you build muscle, which is going to help you speed up the metabolism, helps you to lose fat, right? So what kind of things can we do? What's going to help us get more prioritized protein? So adding protein powder, right, to your every day. And we've talked about that's not a necessity, but it makes it a lot easier. I can easily get a 60-gram start for the day of protein with a shake and feel fantastic. And then I'm a fourth of the way there type of thing. Meal prep containers, in other words, prepping your food ahead of time and making sure you have those options ready. Using a food scale, hand portion visuals so you know how much you're taking in. The less guessing you can do, the more accurate you're going to be and the better results you're probably going to see. And really want to be intentional about how much protein. A lot of times I've heard people say, I think I get plenty of protein. And you look at how much they're taking in, it's like 60, 70 grams of protein. And that's really not optimal. It's enough for them to survive, and that's fine, but not enough for them to build muscle and get to where they want to be. So we really want to have closer to like 30, 40, 50 grams of protein per meal. We want to prioritize animal proteins as much as we can, which would be complete proteins like eggs and chicken, fish, beef, Greek yogurt, and really kind of have that mindset of, okay, I'm going to build my meals around the protein. Build the meal around protein. So what am I going to have for dinner tonight? Let's say I'm going to have some ground sirloin. What am I going to have with that? I'm going to add some fruit, some vegetables, maybe some grains like rice. But you always want to prioritize that protein. Even when my clients are going out to eat, a lot of times I tell them, okay, get a bunch of protein, eat that first, and then we can go from there. Then they have the vegetables. Then if you really, truly, you've eaten all the protein, and you still want to have like that bread or some chips or something like that, go for it. But prioritize that protein. Make sure you get that in first in every meal.
Yeah, this is actually in our challenge. This is today's topic is 30 grams of protein with each meal because it is so important. And just prioritizing, just going in without intent with each meal, like you said, of getting the protein first makes all the difference. And it's going to make you want to eat less of the other things and make sure that you're getting enough of the proper nutrients. When people start to track that, they realize it is a lot harder than you think to get in that much protein. And it kind of comes down to the intention that we were talking about with the water too. You just need to go in with the right intent. You need to know how much you're eating currently, where you need to be at. And then once you are aware of what's in your food, it becomes a lot easier to prioritize that and know how much you need to get in each meal.
I put together a little list of if you want to make sure you get enough protein in, you're like, what can I do? So one, tracking what you eat. You use a food diary app. Make sure you know how much protein you're getting every day. Look at your snacks and make sure that they are high protein snacks. Set a daily protein goal, right? So we usually recommend at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight or goal weight, depending on where you are. Eat protein first in your meal. Make sure you get that in before you eat anything else. Spread protein throughout the day. Now, that doesn't matter as much. Like if you have one meal and you eat 200 grams of protein, your body's going to still take it in like it would if you spread it out. However, that is a lot of protein and a lot. Sometimes it's really hard to eat that much, and sometimes digestion wise, you don't feel like great afterwards. So it's a little bit better to spread it out at least throughout 3 or 4 meals. Uh, Ideally, choose whole foods. I know I mentioned my shakes a lot, but ideally, we recommend whole foods and then use a shake to kind of finish up that goal. And then start with making just simple changes. Some of the easy ways of doing is don't change anything that you're eating, just add a little bit more of it, right? So if you're normally eating 4 ounces of chicken, bump it up to 6 or 8 ounces of chicken. For your snacks, add a little cup of cottage cheese or a cup of Greek yogurt. And already you're probably adding 20, 30, 40 grams of protein to your day without changing much of your daily eating habits.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people get overwhelmed too when they start tracking. They realize, oh, I'm only eating 70, 80 grams of protein. I need to be hitting 100, 180 grams of protein. And it can be very overwhelming to be like, how the hell am I supposed to get to that point? But it really does, it just start with very small actionable steps. Just take that first step, add a little bit of something, get consistent with that, and then slowly work it up over time. You don't need to go 0 to 100 as far as getting in all the protein. So just start with those small steps.
All right, number 4 is sleep and your evening routine. All right, so sleep is, I still feel like sleep is so undervalued and underrated. Like I mentioned earlier, I slept through almost a tornado. You got, I don't recommend that actually, by the way. But
For the record.
For the record. But it's very important. Poor sleep's going to disrupt a lot of things, including like your hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin, that kind of regulates, how hungry you are, how full you are. It increases cortisol, which can lead to add extra stress. It impairs glucose tolerance. And really, it can just be like 1 or 2 nights of really bad sleep can increase cravings, reduce your willpower, slows your recovery. That's another thing too. Sometimes people think, well, I don't need to sleep that much, but they're working so hard in the gym. That's when your body repairs itself. And that's really when you really build that muscle is when you get that recovery in your sleep. So you can be doing everything else right. But if sleep is off, then your body and your progress is going to definitely suffer. So I really feel like this needs to be a priority above, a lot of other things that we tend to prioritize over our sleep.
Yeah, and I just want to repeat what you just said because I think it's so easy for myself included to get caught up in, oh, but I need to finish this work thing. I don't need that much sleep. I'll be okay. No, you can be doing everything right. If you aren't getting enough sleep, you will not see the progress that you want, especially when it comes to the gym. But everything is going to start to break down, even if you feel like you're okay, even if you feel like oh, I'm one of those people that can only get 5, 6 hours of sleep. No, you need to prioritize the sleep. But it makes a much bigger difference than you think, especially if you are not seeing the progress that you want. Sleep. I'm telling you.
Really do it. And, I feel like one of the most important things to do above anything else is to establish a, a set time at night that you're going to go to bed and then a set time that you're going to wake up. And kind of make that like a non-negotiable. And of course, you can have a little wiggle room, maybe a 30, 45-minute window type of thing on both ends. But typically, you want to make that. And then, if you're doing work or whatever, say, hey, you know what? I usually go to bed at 9:30. It's getting close to that time. I got to shut this down and I'll wake up, start over, whatever it may be. But that's the time you go to bed. And then you have a certain time you wake up. And that's the time you wake up, no matter what you're doing, where you are, or what situation you're in.
Yeah, I think having that hard cutoff and those boundaries, especially when it comes to work, because I feel like it's so easy to get caught up in stuff where you push back the sleep. And so when you say that too, actually, so with my Aura Ring, it recently gave me like my optimal circadian rhythm after like having enough sleep data, which was super cool. But I actually already knew what it was, and it was exactly in line with it. Just because when you stick to a normal schedule, when you listen to your body, like you can find that optimal routine for you. And so I think even when you become aware of that, or if you have something that tracks it, try to stay within that natural circadian rhythm as much as possible. I think that will help a ton as well.
Yeah, and there's a few things that you can do, other than setting your sleep time and your wake time, like shutting down electronics earlier, an hour or two before you go to bed, kind of like a power down routine, like create one of those. Or like, okay, this is kind of the process that I'm starting at this time. I start kind of powering down the things around me, and maybe dimming lights down low, or shutting down your electronics, or maybe you start reading a book. You just start getting ready for bed, wash your face, take a bath, shower, whatever it may be. Kind of create that power down routine. And then if you're still having issues, there's definitely some things you can do. Like magnesium has been something that a lot of people will take that improves their sleep, or at least they fall asleep better. Blue light blockers is something that people will use, especially around other electronics. Having like a mask to cover their eyes, or earplugs sometimes, depending on where they live. No screen time, 30 to 60 minutes before going to bed. All these things, you just kind of have to figure out what's going to work best for you. But I think establishing that sleep time and wake up time, and then creating that power down routine where you have those steps is what I do to kind of get closer and closer to bed, I think would definitely help out your sleep.
For sure. And other honorable mentions too, even like the nose strips. Have you ever used those?
I have not.
Oh, really? I feel like a lot of people, especially if you struggle with just breathing in general, or you tend to breathe through your mouth, I feel like that is a great option as well. It's going to help with your sleep and very inexpensive. And I feel like even if you don't have issues with your nose, like even just putting them on, it feels unreal. So that,
You said nose strips? Okay, I thought you said nose drips. I was like, I've never heard of these nose drips. What are these that you speak of? Now I have, and I use this sometimes too, is I'll tape my mouth a little bit.
Mhm.
Just a little piece of tape. It's like athletic tape, and I put it over there, and it's supposed to help with like snoring, which definitely causes less quality sleep if you're snoring a lot. And so I don't know if it helps or not, but I know a lot of people will tape their mouth as well, and a lot of people see a lot of results from that.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that too. Like, especially if you're someone who breathes through your mouth, I think that is very important to train yourself to breathe through your nose. It's going to help your sleep a ton, just overall health. I think there's so many other things that come downstream of breathing through your mouth. So, yeah, another easy hack there. All right, number five, kind of going along lines of mental health, mental clarity. I want to include journaling. Journaling has been shown to reduce stress hormone levels, increase problem solving skills, and boost immune function. It also just helps organize your thoughts and process emotions, giving you more clarity, reducing reactivity. And this is, as I'm sure everyone knows by now, I always hammer the point home. It's like my all time favorite tool just for my mental health, being able to process my thoughts, emotions, and manage stress, plan through stuff. It has been, yeah, my ride or die tool basically for years and years. And it's something that I always stand by. So there's various different ways that you can go about doing that. And ultimately, there's no right or wrong. It just comes down to whatever feels best for you, whatever's going to help you process, whatever way your mind works, whether that is using specific prompts, if you have specific things that you want to dive into, or you want more structure around that. If you want to use it as just a way to like plan your day or reflect and look back on what went well, what your goals are, stuff like that, or just doing a brain dump, which is probably my favorite, is just writing anything and everything that comes to mind, getting it out on paper. And I think one thing that people get tripped up on is one, it feels a little bit awkward at first, especially if you're not used to doing it. And that's okay. I think that's completely normal. The more you do it, the more things start to flow and make sense. And you start to tie these connections and just things start to flow a lot better. It starts to click the more you do it. So you just need to give yourself some space and time. And also, again, take that pressure off. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It doesn't need to make sense. It doesn't need to really flow. Like you should see some of the shit. Like it's just a pure chaos. Sometimes I'm just like everything that comes to mind. I'm just like scribbling it down. But again, the more you get into it, the more you start to like flow and draw those connections and work through things in a way that makes sense. But sometimes you really just need to get all the crazy shit in your head out and on paper, and it releases it out of your mind. So that way, it's not taking up that mental capacity. It's not causing more anxiety and stress, and you can actually work through it in a way that makes sense. So that's my favorite way, is just brain dump, getting everything out. And again, it doesn't need to make sense. Just get it out on paper. And I like doing that too. Like you can do it at any point. I'm doing it midday just because it's what's working best with my schedule, but I also love doing a good morning one, or especially in the evening, because I feel like that's when there's a lot of pent up thoughts, anxiety, stress, and it's a good way to get that all out and just kind of release that and get your body and mind in the right space to go to sleep.
Well, that's a great point. We're talking about sleeping. If you are having trouble sleep, a lot of times the problem people have is there's so many thoughts like going on in their mind, and they just can't get, all they do is keep thinking about all these different things, and they can't go to sleep. They can't relax and go to sleep. And that's a great way to get all those thoughts out. A lot of psychologists will tell you that when you have a lot of anxiety, one of the best ways to handle it is to like confront the anxiety. You know, think about it, talk about it, write it down, and like, what is this bothering me? Why is it bothering me? Is it real? And if you confront it, and a lot of times you're able to deal with it, be like, oh, you know what, that's not as big of a deal, or I'm making a bigger deal of this, or it is a big deal, but here's how I'm going to solve it. Here's how I'm going to work through it. So I think journaling can be a great way of doing that. I like that idea at the end of the night too.
Yeah, so good, especially what you said just about confronting that kind of stuff. Because I think a lot of times it feels more overwhelming in your head, especially when you're just like running that cycle and you're going down the worst case scenarios. But I think when you write it down and you actually go and think, like, all right, like what is actually happening? What's realistic? What's true with all this? Usually, again, it's just your mind making stuff up, and you're able to go and kind of like I usually when I'm in a high anxiety state, I'll go and journal and literally basically just call myself out and be like, all right, this is the situation. I'm like, that's all bullshit. All right, cool, good, we can release that. Good, moving on. Or if, like you said, if there's something valid, cool, like let's work through it. Let's come up with a plan on what I need to do to get out of that.
Yeah, I heard a psychologist speaking. I can't remember her name or anything, but I liked what she said. She said we are really good storytellers. And what we do is we tell ourselves these stories about things that, and they become these big anxieties in our life, And she was talking about the difference between like fear and anxiety, and she was kind of talking about think about like our ancestors, a long time ago. Their fear was when they're out there hunting that a lion might grab them or something, right? And yes, that's a legitimate fear, but that's all they had, and they wouldn't walk around thinking, "Oh my gosh, a lion might get me." If they heard a noise, we need that fear to be able to tell ourselves, hey, there's a noise that we're not sure where that's coming from. It could be a lion that's about to eat us. We need to pause and look at that. And, I was thinking about the like animals, like typical prey, like rabbits, or if you're talking about lions, like gazelles or something like that. When they're being chased by a larger predator, they're booking it and they're doing everything they can to get away. But if that predator lays off or gets tired, that animal goes right back to life like nothing's happened. I've seen like videos of gazelles being chased by these cheetahs and it outruns it. And then 2 minutes later, the gazelle's like eating grass like 10 feet away from the cheetah because the cheetah's worn out and can't run anymore. And the gazelle's like, well, I'm got to eat my grass now. And so there's a big difference between that fear and that anxiety. And so, yeah, I feel like a lot of times the anxieties that we create is just the stories that we make up and embellish. And if, like you said, we sit down and face it and be like, is that really true? Is that probably happening?
I love that. And I actually know the exact person you're talking about too. I was binging a bunch of her stuff because it is so good. I
Well, it's
forget it.
very good.
Do you remember her name? I forget it off the top of my head.
I have no idea. I couldn't even guess. We'll have to look it up and put it in there or something.
Yeah, I did buy her book too because it was so good. I'm like, all right, I'll get.
Oh, I want to hear what you think about it then.
Yeah, I'll have to do a report once I finish.
Yes, we'll do a summer book report club.
There we go. Actually, no, that's a good idea. But
Yeah,
yeah, journaling super helpful and very inexpensive, simple. All you need is a notebook or even just random piece of paper, whatever you got on deck, and just a pen. Super simple. Or sometimes you can just. I have a friend actually who's journaling into ChatGPT and just like talking into it. So like that's a way too. If you don't like physically writing stuff out, for me, I feel like that just hits a little bit different. It's something that I always need to do, but whatever works best for you. Super simple. Just dump your thoughts.
yeah, that's a great idea. So I've done journaling before, but I just haven't been as consistent with it. But I like to view prayer as kind of like a form of journaling. I just don't write anything down,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so like a lot of the things that I would write in my journal, I just talk to God about, and they can be anywhere. I don't even have to have my hands available, right? I can just be talking to them at any time. And I was thinking about also a lot of times people will ask the same question like, well, I don't know how to start praying, or I don't know how to start journaling. Like, what do I write? What do I start with, or what do I talk to them about? And you can comment on this, but I think it's you just whatever you want. You just start. It could be something super simple like today was a crazy day, and then just see where it goes. Maybe just stop there, but just write something. And once you get going, then things will start clicking in your brain. But it's kind of like what we talked about earlier. If you don't take that first step, if you just stare at that blank page and don't write anything down, it's going to be a struggle to do any of those things. So same thing with prayer. Just talk to them about whatever you want. Maybe it's just like, hey, thanks for the great day, and be done. And maybe tomorrow you talk about a little bit more.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say that same thing. That's good. Yeah, no, that's really what I do too. Well, for one, the way I structure, if this is helpful for anyone, is I always do gratitude first. I literally just write out a bunch of things I'm grateful for. And then I basically just start with how I'm feeling. Like sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'm feeling really anxious today. And then that will lead me just into whatever the like something else comes out of that. And I just keep going. So sometimes it's really just like how I'm feeling that day. Or if there is something very specific that's on my mind, I'll dive right into it. So there's, again, no right or wrong. It can literally be anything you want.
Yeah, I really like that idea of starting it out with gratitude. I like to do the same thing with prayer, but I think it's just a great idea just to start off with things you're thankful for. And I think it just puts you in a really good mindset to deal with whatever else you're dealing with that moment or that day.
I feel like gratitude is kind of like a bonus one that falls under this journaling category too, just because it is so, like, it literally takes a few seconds depending on how deep you want to get into it. Don't need anything. You can really just think about it, say it out loud, write it out, just what you're grateful for. And then that will change the entire shift on how you're viewing life because you're seeking out the good things as opposed to what's going wrong, what you're stressing about. And so it really just changes your whole outlook. And it is so simple and effective.
Let's wrap this thing up. So we don't need more time. We definitely don't need to be perfect to be doing this. We just need to focus on the few things that are going to give us our biggest returns. So pick one habit from today's list, find one tool or item that makes it easier to follow through, commit to it, be consistent with it, and see what happens.
Yeah. And I think one other thing to mention too is all these habits are super simple. Like they're all the basics, they're all the fundamentals. I don't know if people were expecting us to come out with some crazy hacks, get the most bang for your buck, but it all comes down to the fundamentals because they give you the most bang for your buck and they are so important. And without the right foundation, all the other supplements, all the other hacks and whatever else you're going to try isn't going to stick because we need that solid base.
Yeah, you're looking for the magic pill. These are the magic pills right here.
Exactly. So yeah, if you want help building habits that actually fit your life, not take it over, feel free to come join us in our free school community. Like I said, we're running all sorts of challenges. We got one going on this week. All sorts of amazing resources in there as far as high protein recipes, training programs, all for free. We'll walk you through it. And just you get support from the community doing the work as well. And if you love this episode, send it to a friend who needs to know it doesn't need to be all or nothing. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and we will catch you next week.